Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be playing a Tron list sent to me by user Pim Langen on YouTube. And this Tron list is kind of a middle point between my old Tron list that I was playing and the Metatron list we started playing a little bit back. I say it's close to mine because it plays a similar number of threats and similar threats to the Tron list I was used to playing for a long time. And the sideboard is kind of reminiscent of the Metatron deck with Mist Cutter Hydra in it and stuff. So yeah, let's go ahead and take this into a constructed Modern League and see how we do. Alrighty, round one, here we go. Alright, we get to play first, and ooh, 2/3 of Tron with only one redraw is very tempting and a little bit dicey. I think I'm going to keep it. I'm going to try not to crack this sphere early. I know I've been getting yelled at for that a lot, but we're going to try and keep this hand. I don't tend to keep hands like this enough. I tend to be overly aggressive in my mulligans, though I do agree that aggressive mulliganing is probably the strategy to go for if you're playing Tron. But Chromatic Sphere makes Ancient Stirrings, Sylvan Scrying, another Sphere, all good top decks. So, play Power Plant, play Sphere, pass the turn. Opponent plays an Urza's Mine. Okay. Into a Chromatic Star. My opponent mulliganed to 4. We top deck Sylvan Scrying. So I didn't even have to make a decision. We even get the Urza's Mine. In this case, I kind of want to tutor for Sanctum of Ugin, because we drew the Urza's Mine. So next turn we can play Wormcoil, but we really need to top deck like Karn to be completely safe. Okay, so my opponent will also have Tron. They get Ghost Quarter. Okay. And we top deck the Karn. Never didn't always have it. Game over. Pass the turn. So even if my opponent plays and Ghost Quarters us, we still have an active Karn liberated. And they would have to go down a land to use Ghost Quarter. They hit Urza's Power Plant, we get a Forest. We untap. Draw another Forest, uptick Karn, play Forest, and I am going to play out Oblivion Stone. Just kind of as an insurance policy, but this game is over. Opponent casts an Ancient Stirrings, reveals a Forest, and the game is over. Nice. Okay, so versus an opposing Tron player, we could bring in Nature's Claims. Kind of thinking over Relic would be correct to do that. Actually, I'm going to drop Dismember and bring one Relic back in. I like having Relic because we can exile some of our stuff that might hit the grave, and then wish for it with Karn, and it also cantrips. So it does technically increase our consistency just a little bit, even if it's kind of an awkward consistency increase, because the mana doesn't fit in the curve as well as our other baubles and stuff do. But hopefully... Oh gosh. I think my mic moved again. Hopefully that my volume is okay today. So opponent is deciding whether or not they want to be on the play. This is a mulligan. This could work. It is a little bit slower. I think I would put back Ugin if I kept this hand. And I'm gonna. So when we start playing this hand, it's important that we try and assemble... Well, I mean, it's important that our opponent keeps an awkward hand that doesn't assemble Tron faster than we assemble Tron. That's basically what's going to be the deciding factor in this game. Now, we have two options of starting with Urza's Tower or Expedition Map, starting with Expedition Map or Chromatic Star off of Urza's Tower. Sorry, I misspoke. And we're going to start with Chromatic Star. Star gives us another chance to draw a second Tron land and then play Sylvan Scrying. Even though Map is like guaranteed you get the land you want. I think this is the way to go. Because right now it's all about speed. And it kind of looks like our opponent's going to have it. Oh, they wilt us. Okay. Well, that could be pretty bad. So we're going to Forest. Sylvan Scrying. We'll go get a Power Plant. Pass the turn. Opponent has a second Power Plant. Plays a Chromatic Sphere. Cracks Sphere for green. and has nothing that can play off the green mana. Okay. So they're playing like I used to play, and I don't know if I blame them, given how low they mulliganed. But we can guarantee Tron next turn, and even if our opponent Ghost Quarters us, we still can play Karn, Great Creator, which will be great. Okay, so we draw Chromatic Star, play Power Plant, play Expedition Map, and pass the turn. We're going to Expedition Map for mine no matter what. Okay, opponent has redundant Tron pieces. We are going to tutor up Urza's Mine. Untap, draw Sylvan Scrying, play Urza's Mine. Take a look at our sideboard here. Yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to play Little Karn. And the reason that I'm doing this is because Liquimetal Coating also still lets us cast Sylvan Scrying this turn. So we can get a redundant Tron piece. Glad I had the mute button for that sneeze. Whew. Alright, pass the turn. Now on my opponent's turn, we're going to shut off a land. And the reason I went with Little Karn over Big Karn here is my opponent has redundant Tron pieces. And if we can make it to next turn, we can take out 2 of the same piece. But my opponent also cannot play and crack map this turn. So now if my opponent hits Tower, because they just saw us get mine, we can play Tower because we're holding on to it. That's pretty nice. They hit Power Plant, sure. Get a Forest. So we can't destroy 2 lands next turn, unfortunately. We can still play map, crack map, get Power Plant, play Power Plant, and we'll blow up an Urza's Mine. I'm going to play and crack Star for green, because we're not hurting for green mana. We just wouldn't mind other things we can play right now. Play Sphere, crack Sphere for green. We get an All Is Dust. That's another card I should have taken out. I actually should have taken out All Is Dust before I took out Relic for Nature's Claim. That's a little bit indicative of my lack of experience with this list that I made that decision, because that was definitely wrong. I'm glad it didn't cost me, because it could have. But alright, I'll see you guys in round 2. Alright. We'll play first. Yeah, Natural Tron, 1 cantrip off Relic. I'm going to keep this. It's a little bit dicey versus an Obosh deck, because our opponent will be quite aggressive. Alright. Opponent plays a Bombat Courier. They get in for 1. Exile a card, hit us for 1, we go to 19, and we draw a Forest. I'm just going to crack Relic right now. Can we get an Ulamog? Play Power Plant, pass the turn. Ooh, this would be a turn 5 Ulamog, which, depending on what my opponent has in hand, could be fast enough. That's really cutting it close, though, and that's expecting my opponent to not have a lot of castables early, or to be stuck on mana, I think. So we're going to see how this goes. Hopefully we draw a Wormcoil Engine. We are maxed out on Wormcoil Engines, and if we can get one next turn, I'll feel pretty safe with this game. Okay, opponent hits us for 1. They light up the stage into a Bombat Courier and a Soulscar Mage, and they are stuck on mana. We draw an All Is Dust, which is not very useful right now. Play Urza's Tower, pass the turn. Now, if we can draw another Urza's Tower, we can play Ulamog right away. Otherwise, we have to play a Forest, Sylvan Scrying, and then see what we get after that. Opponent attacks with Bombat Courier, lights up the stage again. They do find a mountain, so they're able to play a mountain and probably the Soulscar Mage. Yep. Alright, we untap. We draw an Urza's Mine. I don't know if I want to cast an All Is Dust just to deal with 1 Soulscar Mage, but I think I'm gonna. All Is Dust. 7 mana, sack your 1-drop. Seems good. Urza's Mine next turn, guaranteed. Well, we'll just play Ulamog and nuke our opponent's lands or something. If they don't play... Oh, they did play a land this turn. We can actually hit Bombat Courier and stop them from getting a ton of value off of it. Alright, so play Urza's Mine. Play Ulamog. We can either hit 2 lands, or we can hit Bombat Courier and a land. And I think because we know our opponent's not holding lands, hitting the lands now is better. Pass the turn. Alright, opponent plays a mountain, they play a Soulscar Mage, and they Flame Slash Ulamog to put 4 -1/-1 counters on him. We untap, we draw Chromatic Sphere, play Sphere, crack it for green. We draw an Expedition map. So, Sylvan Scrying, get a Blast Zone, play Blast Zone, sack Blast Zone to take care of the Bombat Courier and our opponent's Soulscar Mage, play Expedition map, crack Expedition map, we'll get a Sanctum of Ugin, go to combat, and 2 attacks kills our opponent, so we're going to exile the top 20 cards of our opponent's deck. This is a little bit risky because there is a chance we die on the backswing here, but without prowess creatures, I think we're okay against Burn that has 2 mana. They're going to hit us for 4, take us to 12, and they light up the stage, do a Relic and Swift Spear, and concede. Yep. Nice, okay. I'm glad that our slow hand was enough. So I'm going to bring in Nature's Claim because 1, my opponent is playing Bombat Courier, and 2, I may need to hit my own Spheres or Stars to stay alive. I think 1 Dismember is a necessary evil here. I don't like it, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to drop an O-Stone. O-Stone is useful. It's just going to be slow. And I'm going to drop 1 Relic of Progenitus, and we're going to run it back like this. The good news is we had kind of an awkward start. We still beat our opponent. So as long as we have a good start, like a natural Tron threat start, we're probably fine. This is natural Tron, no threat, but with 3 Spheres and Stars. I actually feel really safe keeping this. If my opponent is playing Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon, well, if they're only playing Blood Moon, we can Nature's Claim. If they play Magus, we might be in trouble. So opponent attacks us with Bombat Courier, exiles a card, we untap. We draw Ulamog, so we'll start Power Plant into Chromatic Star. And I'm only playing Chromatic Star because if they smash to Smithereens or something this turn, we'll get a draw out of it still. We won't have to worry about not having access to green mana next turn for Ancient Stirrings. So opponent hits us, lights up the stage, so they can play a Spikefield Hazard tapped if they want to, I think. They play a Mountain. Shatter Spree. Okay, they did have Artifact Destruction, so it was worth playing around that. We draw a Sylvan Scrying, but we don't need that right now, so we're going to play Chromatic Star, immediately sack for green, we draw Karn Liberated, Ancient Stirrings, and we can either take Karn Great Creator as a threat we can potentially play through a Blood Moon, or we can take Wormcoil if we want to just end this game in a hurry. Karn Liberated is not as good versus our opponent, because a lot of their threats can be played with so little mana that Liberated doesn't actually tax their mana. I think I'm going to take Wormcoil, because my opponent has exactly 1 turn to play Blood Moon. And if we land a Wormcoil, unless my opponent... well, we haven't seen white out of them, so no Boros Charm and probably no Path. Opponent plays a tap land, which means no Blood Moon. They play Soulscar Mage. Soulscar Mage is a little bit annoying because they can shrink Wormcoil Engine down and will not gain as much life. But I don't think it's honestly that big of a deal. So play Urza's Tower, play Wormcoil Engine, and we'll play Chromatic Star for the same reason. If our opponent destroys it, we get a draw. We still have a Sphere in hand for more green mana. Okay, opponent bolts Wormcoil to shrink it down to a 3/3. Now they can, if they have a Spikefield Hazard, actually kill Wormcoil and not allow us the death trigger because it will be exiled instead of dying. Okay, I am going to trade here. Almost certainly my opponent has some sort of prowess trigger shenanigans they want to do. Okay. At least we gain a little bit of life and take out the Soulscar Mage here. I think that was pretty important. Okay. Opponent plays another Spikefield Hazard. We untap, draw second Karn. So what I'm going to do here... Sack Star for green. We're going to draw. If we draw a tower, we play Ulamog. Otherwise, we Sylvan Scrying for a tower. Does that change our play? We could get something like Trinisphere. I don't think so. Let's go ahead and Sylvan Scrying. Get a redundant tower. Play the tower. And play Karn Liberated. take down a land. And even if Karn dies, that's okay. As long as our opponent does not have Blood Moon, we can Ulamog next turn and just take them off of all of their lands, basically. I recognize my opponent's name, and I believe this is one of the really talented grinders, especially with this deck. So I don't anticipate my opponent will make a lot of mistakes here. And I shouldn't be. You should never expect your opponent to make a mistake, but you should always be alert and aware for when they do. Okay, we untap and we draw Worm Coil. In this case, what we're going to do... play Ulamog, take out our opponent's mountains. Kind of want to make them crack Bombat Courier, and then we're going to take a card out of their hand after they crack Bombat Courier. Okay. Ulamog resolves. We're going to pass. Okay. Now we uptick Karn. There was a little bit of opportunity there for us to be punished. If my opponent's last card was a bolt, they let us pass priority, so potentially my opponent could have bolted Karn, but we'd still have an active Ulamog, which short of like triple Flame Slash plus Soulscar Mage or something, probably won't die. My opponent did have a Blood Moon, and they did pitch it. Opponent lights up the stage, plays a Soulscar Mage, plays a Swift Spear. Alright, we untap, we draw Power Plant. Let's see, view sideboard. We can either get Sky Sovereign or Sundering Titan or a really big Walking Ballista. And I'm kind of a fan of a really big Walking Ballista play, because we could ping down both of our opponents' 1/2s. But I think the Sundering Titan is probably just better. Yeah, opponent scoops it up. Alright. Sorry, I knew there was a way for me to win, I just didn't think about it fast enough. Sorry, Hayashi. Alright, cool. Well, we're currently undefeated, and I'll see you guys in round 3 when it happens. Alrighty, round 3, here we go. We're against Pagan 20, and we are given our first unplayable hand of the day, so we're going to mulligan. Like this, I will keep. We're going to put back a tower. And the only thing that really beats this hand is 2 hand-hate spells in a row, or land destruction. And it's quite possible we are seeing land destruction. Now, we got natural Tron, which is great. And in this scenario, I think it's better to start Star Scrying, for 2 reasons. There's always the chance that your odd Gruul Panza player will play Crack the Earth. Oh, it's not Gruul Panza, this is Heliod Company. So there's a chance we die very quickly. My opponent using the mana of Forest to cast Utopia Sprawl tells me that's probably their only land right now. Okay, they play a Scavenging Ooze. Alright, they just didn't want to take the shock off of Temple Garden, or they didn't need 4 mana this turn. That could be good, that could be bad. We'll see. So play Power Plants, sack Star for green, draw a card. Okay, so now we're gonna get Tower. Pass the turn. It's possible I should have gotten Blast Zone off of that Sylvan Scrying, because we're holding Tower. But then our opponent knows what's up. I'd rather get Blast Zone on a turn we know we can play it. 6 mana. Oh, is this Titan? Is this not even Heliod Company? Is this just Titan? It's Ballista, okay. Well, the good news is Karn can stop our opponent from activating Ballista. The problem is Karn is going to die to Ballista activation. Okay, so what we can do here, we can play an Urza's Tower. We can play Karn Great Creator. Then we can Wish. And we can get Sorceress Spyglass to have a redundant anti-walking Ballista effect. We can take a peek at the last 2 cards in their hand and use that information to make decisions upcoming. Okay, so now we name Walking Ballista. And to finish this off, I'm gonna play Expedition Map. Star is much easier to play and crack in the same turn. Karn Great Creator is going to die right now. There's a 0% chance that he survives. However, we should be able to follow this up with a Ugin, and Ugin should be able to win this game for us. It'll take out every single threat except Walking Ballista, which is only a 3/3 that Ugin can just uptick and kill. So my opponent cracks Horizon Canopy. 5 mana. This could be Heliod and Auriok champion? It is. Okay. Well, Ugin is going to win the game here. I'm really glad we got Sorcerer's Spyglass. That is what we needed to not immediately lose to this hand of our opponent's. Alright. I could play and activate O-Stone. Ugin just wins harder. So now with Ugin, we can -3 and wipe our opponent's entire board. Except for Walking Ballista, of course. But that took care of most of their threats and all of their mana acceleration. And opponent scoops. Okay. So I like Nature's Claim as a kill spell for Ballista. I think I also like Dismember for the same reason. Relic is not as important. I don't think my opponent plays that many like Graveyard Recursion effects. I could be wrong. I think I'm going to drop one Worm Coil Engine versus my opponent. O-Stone, All Is Dust, Ugin the Spirit Dragon are all very important in this matchup. And I actually kind of like Ulamog, despite the fact that he comes down really late. Alright, this is a mulligan. This is unfortunately also a mulligan. We're on the draw. We're on the draw with a hand that will beat our opponent if we draw Expedition Map on the first turn, or Sphere Star on the first turn, Sylvan Scrying on the second turn, or Urza's Power Plant in the first 3 turns. Which is a pretty good chance of occurring, any of those odds. So I'm going to actually keep this, and we're going to put back O-Stone and Sanctum of Ugin. Now, there's always the chance this goes wrong, and there's also the chance that my opponent just combos off very quickly. But I'm trying not to hyper-aggressively mulligan like I have been. I'm trying to actually evaluate each hand and be a better player than I have been. And hopefully that shows through in this league. My opponent plays Utopia Sprawl. 3 mana, they play Heliod. Okay, my opponent could have the combo next turn. We draw Worm Coil. So, let's see if they've got it. Temple Garden. Spike Feeder. Oh great, they're going to try and get us with the old Infinite Life. Alright, F6. Is it time for another Kano hates Infinite Life rant? I think it is. So, I hate that this is the technically correct play. I hate that... I hate this so much, because especially when people expect you to concede to this. Okay, that's a little bit better. That's at least, hey, I'm gonna have Infinite Life, and you don't get to have Tron. So... we still have ways around this. We could still attack with Ulamog 3 times. If we get to the point we can take over the game. We just have to sit here for an inordinate amount of time. So I'm actually going to mute so that all this gets cut out until my opponent is done comboing. Mercifully, my opponent stopped at 80. Now there's a good chance we lose this game. And there always was, because of the type of hand that we kept. But... like, the outs still exist. My opponent does not have too much pressure for us to deal with yet. Okay, they give Spike Feeder lifelink. They hit us for 3. They can put a 1/1 counter on whatever they want. They are auto-targeting Heliod, so they put a counter on Spike Feeder. We untap. We draw Dismember. Okay, so now we at least have a way to either interrupt the combo or kill Spike Feeder. If my opponent gets to a point where they can animate Heliod, it's not likely, but it is possible, we could Dismember Heliod. Are they doing this again? Eladamri's Call into a Walking Ballista. So, we get to have one more turn, I believe. No, we can Dismember Walking Ballista. No, actually we can't. We have to Dismember Spike Feeder in response to Ballista being cast. Ah, opponent's Damping Sphere has turned against them. They cast an Eladamri's Call this game. Which means they cannot just infinite combo kill us this turn, and it's going to leave them open to a Dismember. Okay, so they hit us for 3. I'm going to do this. So I don't know why they paid for that when they can just put the 1/1 counters on that way. This is kind of what I anticipated them doing. And I should have, when my opponent attacked, I should have killed it then. But I was still locked into this mindset that my opponent was going to attack with Arbor Elf, but they didn't. We untap. We draw on Urza's Tower, but we have no way to delay our opponent from actually comboing, so we're going to go on to game 3. I don't think we make any further adjustments. I think we just run it back. Oop. Opponent did have pretty close to the nuts, so not much we can do about that. This hand has no redraws, 2/3 of Tron, and a Dismember to interact. I'm actually going to mulligan because I kind of want a faster hand if I can get it. Because I would like to play most of Tron, or at least have a backup plan if my opponent plays Damping Sphere again this game. So we're going to 5. We're going to 4. Alright, I can keep 4. So we will keep Power Plant, Tower, Star, Stirrings. Put back Sphere, Ulamog, Ugin. That feels pretty bad, because we would really like those bombs, but at the same time, we have to assemble Tron first. Opponent starts Forest, into a Utopia Sprawl, no Arbor Elf. We untap. We draw Karn, Great Creator. So crack Power Plant for green. Draw a card. It's an Ulamog. Ancient Stirring's looking for Urza's Mine, but we don't find it. We are going to take Expedition Map. Rest to the bottom. Play Tower. Play Map. This does guarantee we assemble Tron. The question is whether or not it will be fast enough. My opponent could play a Damping Sphere here, and we would have a lot of problems if they did. Opponent fetches up a Plains. And plays a Ranger Captain of Eos. Okay. Probably tutoring for Walking Ballista. They get Arbor Elf. So we untap, we draw. Sylvan Scrying. Okay, I don't really think there's a reason to hold off on getting the mine, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Players is mine. Pass the turn. Yeah, so now if we top deck Tower, and my opponent decides to crack Ranger Captain on our upkeep, we can cast Ulamog. That's kind of a long shot play, but that's the sort of extra percentage point plays that you need to make when you're in positions like this. Always try and play to your outs. And if something is 1% more effective, 1 in 100 times you do it, it will pay off. So, and when you play as much Magic as I do, eventually you'll see those returns. So, opponent plays a Forest. 4 mana, they play a Walking Ballista. We untap. We draw... Okay. We draw... Ugin. We can't cast non-creature spells, though, this turn, so if my opponent has a land and a Heliod, we lose. If we had drawn a Tower, we could play Ulamog, take out their Forest and their Ballista, and we would have won, pretty much on the spot. If we top deck a land and our opponent does not kill us this turn, we should be good to go. So that is not a land. 4 mana. Opponent puts a counter on Walking Ballista, sure. Okay, they had the land, but they didn't have the Heliod. They play a Forest, and then they play Arbor Elf. Sure. Opponent hits us for 3. We untap. We draw Nature's Claim, which unfortunately is not going to do it. So what we need to do is we have to play Karn. Down tick. We'll go and get Sorceress Spyglass. And we have to play Spyglass and name Walking Ballista. And the reason that we name Walking Ballista and we don't name Heliod is because Walking Ballista has the ability to put counters on himself. So my opponent will be able to attack and kill Karn. Last card in hand was a Temple Garden, so there should be no way they can combo kill us this turn through this much disruption. Although they did just shock a Temple Garden, and that's quite frightening. Opponent does have a Heliod, so that means they can activate Heliod twice and get 2 1/1 counters on stuff. We really, really need to draw a land. Like, unbelievably so. Opponent hits Karn for 3, hits us for 1. if we draw land, Ugin is going to be kind of a sacrificial Ugin. Oh man, come on. That's upsetting. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent gets another turn. We're getting close to dying here. We might be in the range that we need to draw and play a tower to be able to play Ulamog, because we're taking 6 here, and if we just take out Arbor Elf and Heliod, we may die to Walking Ballista. Land? Okay, All Is Dust keeps us alive for one more turn, at which point we need either a tower or green mana to survive Walking Ballista. Okay, opponent plays a Horizon Canopy and sacks it to draw. They got something else. It's another Heliod. They hit us for 4. We go to 3. Alright, come on. Tower or green mana. Okay, Wormcoil Engine keeps us alive. Pass the turn. Oh, we're hanging on by the skin of our teeth right now. Come on. Can't use that colorless mana. Pass the turn. But it plays a land. Plays a Spike Feeder. They can make Walking Ballista big enough to kill Wormcoil, but that's all they can do. Oh my gosh. I mean, technically they have infinite life right now, so I suspect we're going to have to go through another one of those episodes before this game is over. Urza's freaking tower, I am so happy to see you. So, do we play Ulamog, or do we play Ugin? I actually think we play Ulamog, taking out Ballista and Heliod. Now, my opponent can gain an arbitrary amount of life, but it doesn't matter because we're going to kill them with Ulamog's attack trigger. Opponent cannot just dump counters onto Ballista to like make it huge and shoot us or anything like that, thanks to the amazing Sorceress Spyglass keeping us alive. So the reason that we played Ulamog to take out Ballista and Heliod over playing something like Ugin here is because if we killed Spike Feeder and Heliod and my opponent, my opponent would have been able to make Walking Ballista a 6/6 in addition to having arbitrary life, which would have, I guess, killed Wormcoil. I guess this just works out slightly more in our favor. If they happen to top deck like a Rex Sage, they don't have to top deck 1 combo piece instead of 2. This gives us an additional creature to block, that sort of a thing. And opponent can gain as much life as they want. We're not worried about it, so I guess I'm going to let them do that, and I'll come back when they're done. Alright, opponent stopped at 90 life. So, play Ulamog, attack with Wormcoil. We're back up to 9, which makes me feel 3% safer than I did. Opponent top decks an Eladamri's Call. Okay, so let's see what they grab. Something like Rex Sage would not surprise me to take out Sorceress Spyglass, because their best hope of beating this might still be the infinite combo. Okay, they get Heliod. So they're still on the arbitrary amount of life plan. We untap. We draw another green mana spell that we cannot play. Play Ugin. -3 Ugin. Okay, opponent does not gain infinite life in response, thankfully. And now we attack for 16. And our opponent is going to die to Ulamog's exile 20 cards trigger long before they die to damage. Moto? Moto. Oh no. Okay. Opponent exiles 20 cards, takes 16, draws down to 20 cards, so this last card is all they have to try and win. And they cannot win with just that one card, so they scoop it up. Alright, I will see you guys in round 4. Wow, Pim, your deck's doing great. Good calls. Alrighty, round 4, here we go. We are on the play, which I'm sure I've mentioned so often is a immense statistical advantage. We have turn 3 Tron with Karn Great Creator. Let's do this. Okay, So start power plant, play Chromatic Star, pass the turn. Opponent, they are a Luris deck, so we do have to be kind of careful. If they have Hand Hate, we might regret it. Opponent plays a Swift Spear and gets in for 1. We untap, we draw Worm Coil, play Urza's Mine, crack Star for green. Draw Forest, Sylvan Scrying, we'll get an Urza's Tower, pass the turn. So the question is, do we want to play Karn Great Creator, or do we want to play Urza's Tower? But at Inquisitions, they can take Chromatic Sphere and nothing else. I think Worm Coil is a slightly harder threat for my opponent to deal with. But if they have a Thoughtseize here, they get to deal with which threat they want to deal with. Alright, we untap. We draw Karn Liberated. New plan. Karn Liberated. Nuke the red mana. Pass the turn. And the game is over. Alright, moving into Game 2. I do not like Dismember as much in this matchup, so I think I am going to bring in a Veil for the odd chance that we maybe Veil a Thoughtseize. Dismember is good versus like the Swift Spear and actual Luris and stuff like that, and but versus Scourge of the Skyclaves, it's abysmal. And versus Death Shadow, it does not do very much at all. We could want Nature's Claim, just in case this is a version that plays Blood Moon, but in order to play Blood Moon, they have to not play Luris as a companion. And I kind of want to keep Relic in the deck, so we're going to play it like this. Alright, unfortunately we do not have a good 7, and because our opponent is maxed out on Hand Hate, we need to be aware of hands that fold to Hand Hate. This hand is actually not as bad as it looks. We do have a couple of redraws. Relic could potentially interrupt our opponent some, but going to 5 is probably worth it. Alright, I'm going to keep... We're going to put back Sylvan Scrying and an Ancient Stirrings and keep Natural Tron, Ancient Stirrings. So if my opponent Inquisitions, they can take Ancient Stirrings and they're going to see that we have Natural Tron. The only way that this really goes wrong is if we get hit by 2 or more Cleansing Wildfire effects. So opponent Thoughtseizes. They see Ancient Stirrings, nothing else. They draw a card from Bauble. We draw Map. So players is mine, play Expedition Map. Expedition Map here, letting us get around 1 Cleansing Wildfire effect, but overall would still slow us down by 1 turn. Opponent plays a Monastery Swift Spear into a Bloodstained Mire, cracking Bloodstained Mire and finding Overgrown Tomb. Stomping Ground, untapped. Okay. Lightning Bolt our face. Gonna get in for maximum damage with Monastery Swift Spear. We untap. We draw Worm Coil Engine, which is fantastic. Players is Power Plant and pass. Worm Coil Engine, hopefully gonna do work for us here. Opponent plays a Wooded Foothills, gets in for 1. Okay. Take 1, go to 14. Opponent passes. Conspicuously leaving up Kolaghan's Command mana. I think I'm actually going to take a Blast Zone here, because I want to follow up Tron with Blast Zone. Oh, shoot, my opponent had Assassin's Trophy. That was a punt, technically. I should have just passed. I did not consider Assassin's Trophy a possibility. So we're going to play Urza's Tower, we're going to play O-Stone. O-Stone hopefully gives us enough time that we will still be able to land a Worm Coil. Okay, opponent fetches and shocks a Blood Crypt. The problem is we cannot crack O-Stone this turn, so if my opponent plays like a big Scourge, we may not have enough time. Okay, they get in for 1, we go to 13, Scourge is now a 7/7. They are representing a minimum of 8 damage, so play Sphere. Now if we crack Sphere with Urza's Power Plant mana and we draw Mine, everything is fine and dandy. Okay, we draw Relic. Play Relic. Crack Relic. Draw Karn, Great Creator. We'll play Blast Zone. Pass the turn. We just have to somehow not die this turn. So we die to Temur Battle Rage, we die to Lightning Bolt, we die to a lot of things. But at least we won't die to Luris itself. Kolaghan's Command, destroying Oblivion Stone, hitting us for 2. Gives our opponent exactly 11 damage on board, and unfortunately we fold. So yeah, not waiting on that map activation actually killed me. And I'm not used to playing against Jund Death Shadow. Most of the time it's Rakdos, or very rarely it's Grixis. I completely forgot that Assassin's Trophy was a thing, and that was a punt. I should have attempted to play around Assassin's Trophy, and I did not. But we've learned something, and we're going on to Game 3. Not going to let that get me down. We're doing great. Alright, we'll play first. This hand does potentially fold to hand hate, but I'm going to keep it. We do have a low-cost threat in the form of Karn. We are going to stick a Chromatic Sphere on board early. Okay, so start Urza's Mine, Chromatic Sphere, pass the turn. Kind of hoping our opponent has a Swift Spear start. It looks like I have a bald spot right here, but it's actually just the way the light's reflecting off my hair. Alright, opponent starts Thoughtseize. They probably take Ancient Stirrings. If they don't take Ancient Stirrings, they take Karn. Okay. We untap, draw another Karn, play Tower, pass the turn. We're going to wait on Cracking Sphere just in case we do draw a Sylvan Scrying or something like that. Opponent fetches up an Overgrown Tomb and plays a Tarmogoyf. Okay. We untap. We're going to try and be disciplined with this Chromatic Sphere. Just play a Tower, pass the turn. Okay, opponent Inquisitions. They hit nothing in our hand. They do not grow the Tarmogoyf, do not pass go, and do not collect $200, but they do Lightning Bolt. And that unfortunately does grow the Tarmogoyf. They only have one card left in hand. Hopefully it's not an Assassin's Trophy. They hit us for 3, down to 14. Opponent passes. We untap and we draw Relic. So we're going to start by playing Relic. And we're just going to pass. We will nuke the graves on attacks so that Tarmogoyf does not deal any damage. Opponent goes to combat, attacks us for 3. So declare blocks, we'll go ahead and just exile the grave. Opponent does not have a fetch land for us to worry about, and we do draw Sylvan Scrying. That's good news. Opponent puts Lurrus into their hand. Playing a Bloodstained Mire. Alright, we untap. We draw an Urza's Mine. Crack Star for green. Sylvan Scrying, we get a Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Play Mr. Great Creator. We'll go ahead and wish. And we only have 1 floating mana. We could play Grafdigger's Cage. We could actually just wish for Relic and replay Relic. I kind of like that a little bit better. We might be able to limit the amount of damage that Tarmogoyf can do if we do that. So I am actually going to play Relic. Pass the turn. If my opponent has a particular card type in grave... Alright, opponent goes to combat. Okay, they play a... Or they go to main phase, they play a Bauble. They cannot activate the Bauble. They go to combat. They attack Karn. So we Relic ourself and we exile the Sorcery, because that's the hardest card type for our opponent to put in the grave. If they have an instant, you know, they have an instant. Teamer Battle Rage. They really want to make sure Karn Great Creator dies. This does let them crack the Bauble and does let them get an additional card draw on our upkeep. But my opponent cannot play Lurrus, meaning we get a draw. So play an Urza's Mine, and it's time for Big Papa Sundering Titan. Let's go. We're going to take out a mountain, a swamp, and a forest. Pass the turn. Whew! I think we have turned a corner. And that corner leads to the match victory. Currently 4-1. I will see you all in round 5. Alrighty, round 5. Here we go. We would love to play first. Misplaced Ginger, I identify with your name. I'm going to mulligan, though. Opponent is also on Lurrus. This hand is almost reasonable. If it had even 1 sphere or star, I would keep it because we're on the play. We're going to 5. I'm going to 4. Alright. So we put back Urza's Mine. Wait, hang on. Yeah, Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, and Forest. And it's actually Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Mine, yeah, and Forest. Never mind. Okay, so we start Urza's Mine Expedition Map. Pass the turn. Sorry, I muted because the dog was barking and I didn't realize I was F6'd. My opponent played Swift Spear, Cracked Bauble, and is now drawing a card. We draw a Power Plant. play Power Plant, go ahead and crack, and we will get Urza's Tower. Pass the turn. This is gonna be unfortunate if our opponent does have a Assassin's Trophy, if this is Jund Luris Death Shadow. Okay, opponent plays a Swamp and Thought Seizes at the worst possible time, just in time to take Wormcoil Engine from us. They would have some difficulty having to deal with that. And they are going to Inquisition to take our Chromatic Sphere as well. So we have a turn to top deck something amazing. We untap and we draw a star. So play star. Crack star for green. We draw sphere. Play sphere. Crack sphere for green. Play map. Now we have redundant Tron piece. So, let's see what our opponent plays. Second Swift Spear. Into a Sunbaked Canyon. Into a Knight's Whisper, losing 2 life and drawing 2 cards. Opponent is going to attack us for 4. Sure. I think the correct choice is to get Blast Zone here, just to make sure that we're doing something. We untap, we draw Karn Liberated. So play Blast Zone, play Karn. We are going to nuke a land with Karn. Pass the turn. Hopefully Karn takes the heat off of us for a turn. It is possible that our opponent has just like a crazy number of spells and probably kills us. It's less safe than cracking Blast Zone, but I think we got to do it. So opponent attacks Karn to kill Karn. We now need an answer for Scourge of the Skyclaves. We untap Ugin, please. Opponent looks at the top card of our deck. We draw a Relic, so play Relic. Crack the Graves, we have 6 mana left over. Need like a Wormcoil, and there's the Wormcoil. Alright. Play Wormcoil Engine. Pass the turn. So now, we die basically only to Temur Battle Rage. As long as our opponent does not have exactly Temur Battle Rage, we are fine. Alright. Opponent draws for Mishra's Bauble, draws for turn. Plays a Bloodstained Mire. Temur Battle Rage. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks only there, so they're going to deal 3 damage on the first hit, and then they're going to deal 12 damage on the second hit. Ah, sigh. Yeah, still had all these, I know. Well, that is unfortunate. I could have sequenced a little bit different. If I had taken the safe route of cracking Blast Zone and then playing Karn to handle the Scourge, we would have been fine. Unfortunately, that was just not what happened. Okay, so we're going to drop Dismember, bring in a Veil of Summer. So my opponent is playing a version of the deck that is Mardu, I believe. That's what we saw. I think this is the only adjustment I'm going to make. So we're going to run it back now. Alright, we'll play first. That's a mulligan. That's a mulligan too. Okay. I will keep this on 5. Going to put back I think 1 Karn. I want to keep a Karn. And I think we put back All Is Dust. Yeah, I'm going to put back All Is Dust. Alright. Starters is mine. Pass the turn. Opponent starts Blood Crypt, untapped. Inquisition me. There it is. Complete whiff. Just play to peak that doesn't cantrip. No worries. We untap, draw Power Plant, play Tower. Alright, looks like we might get him. Double Thoughtseize would get us. Opponent plays Polluted Delta, cracks Polluted Delta, gets a Swamp, plays a Swift Spear, and Bauble. Okay. Cracks Bauble. Thoughtseize. Okay, so now my opponent can get whichever threat they don't want to deal with. They take Karn, Great Creator, they think they can deal with a Wormcoil. They probably can. They hit us for 3. They draw a card. We draw Karn Liberated. So is it better to play Wormcoil or is it better to play Karn? I think with my opponent on 2 mana, Karn Liberated is stronger. I'm going to take them off of the Blood Crypt. This might force them to play awkwardly to try and kill Karn. The downside is if they have another Thoughtseize, they can take Wormcoil and then we're kind of dead in the water. They do have a Lightning Bolt. Opponent has a Bombat Courier. They can get in for 3. We take 3 and go to 14. Untap. Draw Chromatic Star. So play Sanctum of Ugin, and we'll just play Wormcoil and play out Chromatic Star. Pass the turn. No cards in hand. Opponent plays a Sunbaked Canyon into a Blood Moon. Kind of suspected this when I didn't see the Luris, because this is the kind of stuff that's happened to us before, but at the same time, we do still have a Wormcoil engine. Untap. We draw Power Plant. So we only need green for Stirrings and Sylvan Scrying and Veil. I did not bring in Nature's Claim. So we're going to hit our opponent down to 6, go up to 20, play a Power Plant, pass the turn. So this means Nature's Claim has to come in for game 3. It also means we might be in trouble if our opponent does have any of the bigger creatures. And I took out Dismember, which means we can't kill this Swiftspear unless I draw... I actually can't kill the Swiftspear right now. Okay, opponent plays Scourge of the Skyclaves. We draw Ugin. I'm going to go ahead and crack Crack Star for green right now. We draw Veil. Dang. Go to combat. We have to attack here. We need to gain life, and we need to force our opponent to block. Okay? Opponent did make the correct choice in blocks. Had they blocked with Swiftspear, we would have killed Scourge by gaining too much life. Opponent plays a Mountain. They just attack with the 2 Couriers. Okay, they hit us down to 22. They crack the Courier with more cards under it. And play a Death Shadow, play a Mishra's Bauble. Crack Bauble, and pass. They draw a card off of Bauble. We draw Urza's Mine. Play Urza's Mine, go to combat, and we will attack for 6 here. Force our opponent to block. Okay, opponent blocks with Death Shadow, so we gain a bunch of life and trade off for 2 smaller tokens. Pass the turn. Game's still not over yet. Opponent is getting to a point where they are going to be able to recover a bit more. If we draw another 2 lands in a row, we can... okay, opponent attacks for 3. We're just going to take the damage here and threaten to swing back 6. Oh, opponent has Kolagon's Command. So they're going to kill our creatures here using Seal of Fire, and now they can crack Bombat Courier after they get the damage and additional card draw. Alright, we're 1 land away from Ugin. Ugin is either 2 upticks lethal or... Okay, opponent cracks Bauble, goes to combat, attacks us for 3. 4 cards under Bombat Courier. They sack Bombat Courier to draw 4 cards. Replay Bombat Courier and Thoughtseize! Oh, so brutal! They take Ugin. They lose 2 life to play a Stomping Ground, I believe? Get a forest. Play a forest. Now we have access to a Veil of Summer, which we may just use to cantrip. Opponent plays Bombat Courier. Lightning bolts our face. Goes to combat. They attack for 4. We go to 14. Alright, well, any threat of ours, Ugin-sized or smaller, should kill our opponent here. Or at least put them in a position that they're not winning. Okay, opponent cracks a Bombat Courier to draw a card. Cracks the other Bombat Courier to draw an additional card. That seems questionable to me, but what do I know? Opponent plays a Bauble. Cracks the Bauble, looking at our top deck. Okay. We untap. They draw. We draw. Relic. Play Relic. Crack Relic. play Power Plant. Pass the turn. Okay. Opponent bolts our face. Oh, come on. We can't lose like this. Not after we got to 9 lands played. Opponent hits us for 2. We go down to 9. They pass. We untap. Draw another relic. Play relic. Crack it to draw. Play another forest. Pass the turn. Opponent's turn. Oh, come on. We're so close. We can even play Ulamog now. Opponent attacks us for 1. We go to 8. Any black spell, and I'm going to play this Veil. We untap. Draw a Worm Coil. Alright, this might do it. Pass the turn. We do have Veil protection if my opponent does have a Kolaghan's Command. Second Swift Spear. Opponent might be in a place where they would bolt their own Swift Spear to prevent us from gaining life, I guess. What do we top deck? Ancient Stirrings. Okay, Ancient Stirrings is pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We cannot quite play Ulamog, but we can play Ugin. And our opponent scoops it up. Whew! Okay, so that means Veil of Summer out along with, I think, 1 relic, and we're going to bring in Nature's Claims and run it back. We do need an answer to Blood Moon. Our opponent gets to be on the play for game 3, which is quite unfortunate. This is a deck where us being on the draw versus us being on the play is a massive swing in difference in terms of how well we can win. First hand was not keepable, and neither is this one. I will keep this. I've got to put 2 cards back, so we're going to put back a Sanctum of Ugin and a Chromatic Sphere. And with that, we'll get started. Opponent starts Blood Crypt untapped with a Monastery Swift Spear. Okay. Opponent gets in for 1. We untap. Draw Nature's Claim, so play Power Plant. We'll play Chromatic Star. We're playing Star for 2 reasons. Number 1, if we draw a Sylvan Scrying, we can play it next turn. Number 2, if it gets destroyed, we still draw a card. Opponent plays a Kroxa, so we are going to discard. I think we got to discard our other Chromatic Star here and just be very sparing with the one we have. Because I really want to keep Nature's Claim in case of a Blood Moon next turn, and right now I can play Relic of Progenitus to deal with that Kroxa. We draw Oblivion Stone. So given the option of discarding other cards, I think I will discard Oblivion Stone over Nature's Claim. But we'll see. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent untaps. Night's Whisper. They're going to draw some cards, lose some life. Kind of interesting to me that my opponent is playing that. Opponent is going to Thoughtseize us. We could Nature's Claim ourselves. I don't think I'm going to. If they take Nature's Claim, they have Blood Moon. They take O-Stone. They're afraid of O-Stone. Opponent attacks us for 3. We go to 15. Do we want to give up on Relic? I think so. I think now is the time to give up on Relic. We draw an Ancient Stirrings. Alright. And we draw Karn. Alright, well here we go. Crack Star for green. We draw Wormcoil Engine. Ancient Stirrings. Oof. No land. Play, grab Star. Rest of the bottom. Play Star. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent is playing second Swift Spear. Inquisition, the only option is Nature's Claim. And opponent plays a Death Shadow. Hits us for 4, we go to 11. We untap. Draw Karn. We are going to take so much damage next turn unless we draw something to play now. Potentially, I can wait 1 turn. But I mean, if my opponent just has a couple non-creature spells, I think we're actually going to die to Prowess. This is tough. I'm going to try waiting 1 turn. I'm going to try being a little disciplined here, but I think I think we've lost. I'm going to play Bloodstained Mire, Night's Whisper. Oh yeah, no, I think we're totally donezo. My opponent can fetch and shock, and that's going to be lethal. We have no way to gain life at instant speed. Just going to go ahead and do this now. Just to see. We wouldn't have gotten it. How unfortunate. I think we played quite valiantly this league. I think this is one of the better leagues that I've played with Tron. I think cranking down the mulligan dial from 100% always mulligan aggressively to like 90% was the correct choice. But we still 4-1. We get 5 treasure chests and 120 play points. So let's go ahead and see what's in our treasure chests and see if we got anything cool. So, treasure chest number 1, we have 10 play points and a Sovereigns of Lost Alara. Treasure chest number 2, 10 play points and a Glasspool Mimic, which I believe is worth something. It's not coming up with my MTG bot right now. Treasure chest number 3, we get 5 play points, a Coercive Recruiter promo. That's the second one I've got of those in 2 days, and a Pursued Whale. Treasure chest number 4, we got 5 play points and a Liliana of the Veil. Now that's worth something. And a Desecration Demon. Liliana of the Veil worth 12 tickets. Not bad. That's a whole league. And final treasure chest. We get a Queen, Itinerant Meddler, Avatar Vanguard slash, player avatar. We get a Borderland Behemoth and 35 play points. So we're gonna try and we're gonna talk about this deck just a little bit. I don't have a ton of time right now, but I'll do my best. All in all, I think this list is pretty solid. This is a standard safe build of Tron that does seem relatively appropriate for the current metagame. It absolutely could have 5-0'd had I played correctly with the correct sideboarding decision against that final Mardu opponent and brought in Nature's Claims the second game. I even mentioned it as a possibility in round 4, and lo and behold, round 5 it happens to us. Round 4 was a little shaky because I did play into an Assassin's Trophy, but we still managed to clinch the victory. I like, in my personal opinion, I like the slightly more threat-dense version of the list. Like this list without Worldbreaker, I think I like a little bit more. Or what is it? Which one was it? I actually think this Thragtron list was pretty sweet too. You go ahead and pause the video if you wanna see what's going on here, but but all in all, I think Pim Langen, was it? Pim Langen. I think your list is just fine. I think it is. There's nothing too spicy in it, but it's quite solid. And like I just showed you, it can 5-0. I even made a few punts here and there, and like the list was fine. Relic was useful. In one case, we even wished for Relic after exiling itself, so like that's some of the power of Relic that you can see there. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. If you like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. You can also follow me on Twitch, same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's been earlier than that, and I should probably update the announcement, but that's the time that I'm usually guaranteed to stream. And yeah, I think you're all wonderful human beings, and thanks for watching. Bye!